Judge ready? Time starts now. Okay, so today we're debating a topic about public health services should expand to gene editing. And as a content, we're strongly opposed. So first, we would like to provide some few observations. One, public health services is responsible for the protection and advancement of society's and physical mental well-being. And two, we believe gene editing is the manipulation of genetic material of a living organism by deleting, replacing, or editing the DNA sequence. And three, we would like to remind you judges that this debate is not only about the benefits or the harm of gene editing, but moreover why specifically public health service should or should not expand to them. Our framework is that if we believe that we prove public health services expanding access to gene editing can create irreversible damage, as well as creating unethical changes in society, then we win this debate. We have two contentions. One, there could be the misuse of weaponization of gene editing technology that harms society, and two, that gene editing can cause immunity problems. Moving on to the first contention, there could be the misuse or weaponization of gene editing technology that can harm society. Public access to gene editing technology could easily be abused by rogue actors for terrorism, or cause other offensive military actions in the form of biological warfare. And gene editing crosses a line that can never be uncrossed. According to Joel Enkenbeck, cover science and politics at the National Desk, terrorists could use spraying system, Enkenbeck said. To use insects as a vector to spray diseases is a classical bioweapon. And also according to Daniel Gersten, a former undersecretary at the Department of Homeland Security, it's interesting that we have something that is clearly technology that was designed for legitimate biotechnology research that can be associated in a way with weapons of mass destruction. Judge, terrorist goals is to cause commotions of fear among people and society, which is why they steal not only privately but more so publicly to show others what they did and to cause fear. And we believe that expanding to public health services basically makes it easier for terrorists to gain control of bioweapons, and it can go to a point where those global norms countries made would not be useful. And two, gene editing can cause immunity problems. Gene editing was claimed to be the cure of genetic problems such as cancer. However, it is ineffective in most of the cases that were tested on public. A study is published on October 29, 2018, analyzed how 48 gene donors responded to the CRISPR gene designed to treat the bacteria, which called growth. Intriguingly, 96% of the donor evaluated showed an effector activation upon SBK sign stimulation. What this means, Judge, is that their immunity system basically rejects the gene being edited into their DNA, and which means that it actually didn't change anything in their body. Hence, we could conclude that SBK sign stimulation induces a response in adult humans. Judge, the fact that it is now proven gene editing can be rejected by immunity system, and perhaps there can be even other unknown effects. And Judge, the fact that a technology can solve one problem but create another one, we believe it will be like a circle, right? There will be no other problems. There will be other problems that will need to be solved, and we believe that under the circumstances, gene editing definitely shouldn't be expanded to public health services. Lastly, I would like to remind you, Judge, that this debate is about resolving, and we believe that in the status quo, this technology should be implemented now and not sooner or later. And as a content, we believe that it is still in their state of researching, and it is not safe to implement it and for the whole society to use. Therefore, as a content, we strongly oppose this resolution. Thank you.
Time starts now. In a world where diseases are inevitable and technology is growing faster than ever, as a pro side of this debate, we stand with the resolution and tell you that it is the government's obligation to seize the chance to help their people. We would like to define public health service as a form of health service that is accessible to everyone and the cost is covered by the government. People in the higher classes have access to gene editing no matter what, so even if we don't expand access to public health services, rich people will still have gene editing. We like to define expand access as allowing the general population to access gene editing if they wish and are certainly able to, and we would like to define gene editing technology as technology that scientists and doctors use to change cells and DNA patterns within an organism's body. The problems that we solve today is one, mass casualties due to a large variety of diseases, and two, lack of access to food. We have two assertions. One, gene editing is the biological and only cure for a large variety of diseases, and two, gene editing can improve our future of agriculture. So for the first argument, we have three subpoints. One, monogenic diseases, two, mosquitoes, and three, public health. So first, monogenic diseases. From 1856 to 1863, scientist Gregor Mendel discovered genetics, by first experience on peas, then moving on to small animals such as mice. From this, we learn and understand how organisms inherit single gene diseases. And with modern day technology, we know how to cure these diseases. But many diseases can only be cured by gene editing, such as Alzheimer's, cancer, blood disorders, blindness, muscular dystrophy, and it's even getting closer on the path towards curing AIDS and HIV. Although gene editing cannot eliminate all human disease and sickness, this is not its purpose. Gene editing helps find and correct the incorrect DNA patterns in a cell, and it is a tool that doctors and scientists can use to get rid of mutations that doctors already found on their own and then fix it with. Our second subpoint, prevention of malaria or mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are harmful on two levels, humans and animals. Mosquitoes are the deadliest animal on Earth, and an infographic made by Gates Mills shows that mosquitoes kill over 720,000 people per year, while other animals that are seen as dangerous or deadly kill much less. They also transmit diseases to parasites, which are also very deadly to organisms. Every year, malaria alone, transmitted by the Anopheles mosquito, kills over 400,000 people. Now that I've illustrated why mosquitoes are a problem to humanity, I will now explain how gene editing can stop the rise of harm that mosquitoes cause. The development of plasmodium inside mosquitoes requires the activation of different mosquito components called agonists. These agonists include one specialized protein, fibrinogen-related protein 1 or FREP1. The researchers at Johns Hopkins University have previously discovered this protein and the role it played in the development of the malaria parasite. Using a recently developed CRISPR-Cas9 genome editing tool for the Anopheles mosquito, they successfully deactivated FREP1, preventing the development of plasmodium. This shows that on the scientific level, gene editing can easily erase mosquitoes from the world and can be easily established as beneficial. Our third subpoint, rare and severe diseases can be cured by gene editing. We have to face death when we encounter severe diseases that our body cannot handle, such as cancer, while going through the hassle. However, gene editing can cure these diseases with simple procedures, such as an injection. Prior to expanding gene editing to the public, around 15,000 people died per day in cancer alone in 2015. On the other hand, if gene editing is expanded to the general public, this can significantly reduce the number of lives lost due to severe diseases. And our second argument, gene editing can improve our future of agriculture. Using CRISPR, which is a gene editing technique that's applied to selective breeding, farmer Zachary Lipman has edited the genes of his tomatoes so that the plant would have twice the amount of branches as it originally should, thus producing twice the amount of fruit. Gene editing also allows the plant's tomatoes to become more nutritious and more immune to droughts and pests, which are predicted to increase in the upcoming years. This is very helpful in many ways, as first of all, this is done without adding chemicals to these plants. Second of all, this is very helpful towards the less wealthy people or lower class people, or simply towards the aspect of saving money, because if farmers are able to produce more food, logically the price for these goods will lower, allowing people to gain easier and cheaper access to these foods. With this, our world's crops will be much more nutritious and will reproduce quicker, and we will also decrease poverty rates much quicker than the opponent's world, who aren't changing anything with their crops at all, which causes them to cost more due to less quantities, have less nutrients, and be fully vulnerable to pests, bad weather, and droughts, which are destined to increase in the following years due to what humans are doing to the environment. If we expand gene editing tech to the public, we can help save many lives while providing a better chance for the lower class and improve agriculture. That is why, because one, gene editing is viable and only cure for a large variety of diseases, two, gene editing can improve our future of agriculture, we strongly believe that public health services should expand access to gene editing technologies. Thank you.
We will now go into the crossfire.
In your speech, you talked about how there are modern diseases that can be only cured by gene editing. Can you give some examples and how they are cured by gene editing?
So, some examples of diseases that can only be cured by gene editing are Alzheimer's, cancer, blood disorders, blindness, muscular dystrophy, and it's getting closer to AIDS, and it can cure HIV. And the way that it cures it is gene editing is basically a tool that scientists and doctors use, and scientists and doctors first find the incorrect patterns in a DNA or a gene, and then they use it to cut that and change it.
Follow up?
Yeah.
So is there any successful cases of gene editing and actually cured?
Yeah, we already gave the example from the University of Wisconsin in Madison. The gene editing proved successful on curing diseases such as Alzheimer's, cancer, and so on. And then so is my question. So if you had an otherwise incurable and fatal disease such as HIV, and it could be only cured by gene editing, and even though there's the risk of side effects, would you not do so?
Okay, so the risk, right? If it's a little risk, yeah, sure, we can take it. But the risk is really big because why? CCR5 can, yes, be resistant to HIV. But however, it increases it has a possibility of 13 more times of having West Nile virus. Yeah.
So, but as we already know, HIV is fatal. And if you don't do anything about it, you're gonna die no matter what. So wouldn't you agree that at least people should take this chance? There might be a risk, but wouldn't it be better if they had a chance to survive than just dying?
Would it be better if after you finished it and after you did the technology and you still have another virus in your body?
But if we don't use this technology, you're gonna die no matter what, right?
But if you have another, when you like solve one deadly disease and you create another one, then how is that curing?
We know that there will never be 100% safeness and guarantee, but if you're going to die if you don't do this, like people won't you agree that people will take this chance? At least they have a chance to survive, right?
But it's the difference is that there are the risk we provide, right? Is actually if I was a patient or something and I'm dying of HIV, people wouldn't like to solve one problem and then having another virus in that. But it's just it's like, okay, so now we solved this problem, so okay, now I won't die, but now I have another problem to care about, and I might die from that, right?
So would you just not solve the problem?
But it's the thing is that the effect, the result of gene editing doesn't really solve the alternative.
Yeah, but if you don't use that in the first place, there's no chance you're gonna die. You said there's a 13 times more likely. There's a chance, but if you don't solve it, you're gonna die.
Thank you. Now we're going to be moving to the rebuttal portion of the debate. 4 minutes.
So time starts now. I am the second speaker of the team, and we strongly negate with the motion. I would like to provide some rebuttals. First, on their first contention. They've said that gene editing technologies can cure diseases. I would like to point out that from our evidence, according to E.D. Young, science writer for The Atlantic, he says that genes rarely do one thing. Certain traits of humans are controlled by a region of genes. Those thousands of edits will ripple through the body in unexpected ways. For example, deleting the CCR5 gene will make people resistant to HIV, but also makes them 13 times more likely to die of West Nile virus, which is just as bad, or even worse, because it's the hospital's obligation to cure people, which however, they're just creating more problems and a larger possibility of death. Also, according to the U.S. Institution of Health, because there is this gene called P53. If P53 is the material that patch up the broken cells when it is sliced by CRISPR, and if P53 starts to malfunction, it means that cells can't self-repair, and cancer will occur as a result. From these evidence, we can see that actually gene editing isn't solving the problems that we have now, but it's in a bad cycle and creating more problems. Now, on to their second contention, that is agriculture. According to New Zealand environmental nonprofit organization, evidence in the last few years show that changes in organisms using genetic engineered gene drives are not precise, or easy to develop, and have many unknown risks to the cells of the developing organism. These changes are permanent, are irreversible, and are inherited. And even the constructs, they can be absorbed by the gut, resulting in abnormalities in blood and organs, as well as causing negative effects for the immune system. From these evidence, we can see that gene editing the agricultural plants aren't actually solving the global hunger problems, but also they're breaking the balance of nature, and they're creating stuff that people can't eat. As a Conti, we are promoting that we shouldn't expand this gene editing technology to the public now, but rather we should develop it and provide it to the public in its more mature state, because we want to bring the more benefits for the more people. And from a utilitarianism view, this can only be done through the development of this technology. And yet, we should not provide it to the public because it has many uncertainties and risks. Risks that we are sure of, risks that are irreversible, and risks we are not yet unknown of, into regions of discoveries that we yet can't explore. And expanding this to the public now means that we are experimenting the lives of our people. We are taking a huge risks. So that's why we strongly oppose this option with the motion. Thank you.
Test. Mom's ready, teammates ready, judges ready. Time starts now. In my speech, I'll be doing two main things. Firstly, I'll be responding to our points, and then I'll be adding a quick extension to our case. So firstly, they bring up this point about misuse of weaponization, right? We tell you that this is simply ironic to the definition, right? Because your definition talks about how it's only going to be used for public health services. Well, clearly, weaponization is clearly not a part of public health services, so we tell you that this is clearly doesn't have a link within your case at all. Right? Even if this is established as right, first, the 1972 Biological Weapons Convention has created a global norm where any state that uses bioweapons could become a pariah, right? And secondly, countries that use gene editing for nefarious purposes will be sanctioned to the extent that their biotech companies can no longer use the positive applications of new technologies. So the government will only use this for the benefit of health for the general public rather than using this for nefarious purposes, right? So we tell you at this point doesn't stand at all. Secondly, they bring up this point about how your immune system will reject it. The recent study about CRISPR and strep bacteria was a wholesale rejection of CRISPR, right? The study's leader, Michael Schmuck, explained to Harry Luck from Sanmi that our results are a warning. However, it has been a problem in the field of gene therapy for a long time, right? So we tell you that in many cases, your immune system will actually not reject this and will actually take it in as something to benefit your body. So they provide all these practical problems, right, which only calls for more testing. The things that we have nothing against more testing, right, we can release it while researching and improving it simultaneously. We have nothing against it. So they have to rebut against this point about how we can actually use this at the same time. So they attack our points of solving a variety of diseases by saying that the potential side effects can potentially outweigh, right? The key word here is potential. They have no exact evidence or precise reason on how exactly every single time you provide a patient with this sort of gene editing technology, they'll receive this sort of side effect, right? To tell you that in our world, we save more lives at the end of the day, and this is what the government's obligation is, to save more lives and call for the duty, right? So they provide this example how if the CCR5 gene is deleted, the West Nile virus is, you become 13 times more vulnerable to the West Nile virus. Okay, this is flawed on two levels, right? Because the West Nile virus is only applicable for people living in Africa, and this is only a portion of people, right? And secondly, we tell you that the CCR5 gene deleted, right? If you do not do this in the first place, that means that you're gonna die anyway, right? So we tell you that in our world, we're actually providing people the chance to do this or not. However, in their world, they're not providing the people suffering from these diseases have even a chance of living. They also provide an example of cancer, right? They also tell you how it's cell problems. We tell you that this is the exact same thing because if you do not deal with cancer, there's only a 5% chance of going to Mayo Clinic that you're going to live. So we tell you that we provide a larger chance of people living and tell you that this is what the most important thing is. They attack our agriculture point by telling that it will harm the environment. However, we're telling you that we aren't exactly releasing an invasive species into society. You're just removing the trouble within the mosquitoes. This is beneficial for animals as well as the people. The animals can still eat the mosquitoes and food chain will not be broken, right? So we tell you that this attack doesn't stand as well. So now I'm going to be providing a quick extension to our case. We tell you that we benefit the poor more in this debate. Our first speaker briefly talked about this, and I'll be expanding on this as well. We already told you that gene editing can cause things such as making crops more nutritious and grow in larger batches. The fact is that since there's a lower demand because there's more of the product, the prices will lower. This means that the poor can afford the basic life necessity of food, and this can lower poverty rates. Right now, the poor have food ration cards that they exchange for wealth, right? We tell you that that is not beneficial for them, and they do not come in large amounts or nutritious amounts. So at the end of the day, why do we win this debate? Why are we ahead right now, right? Because we save the more lives and we benefit the poor more. This is the most important thing today. And in their case, right, their case is an unsure bundle of what ifs, right? We tell you that they have no evidence whatsoever on how side effects will actually outweigh the benefits of solving these diseases directly. So for these reasons, we're very proud to propose. Thank you.
We will now enter crossfire. 3 minutes. Yeah, extension.
The time starts now. If you think global norm is so effective in controlling terrorism, then why is ISIS still happening?
Can you rephrase that?
In your speech, you stated that we can regulate the terrorism through global norms, but why is ISIS still happening if this can be done through your action.
Right. We tell you that there are many organizations dedicated to solve this, right? As we have already told you, the 1972 Biological Weapons Convention. However, there is no convention to stop the rise of terrorism. So we tell you that because there's a direct convention to solve this, can clearly solve this, right? So our question for you is that how are you going to deal with the problem of poverty in your case?
We will try to expand this technology when it is being more developed and has certain more certain effects than now with less side effects. But what we're doing now is basically you're trying to provide the public with some uncertain product of yours that will cause abnormalities in blood and blood vessels.
But that just contradicts your definition, right? Because your definition states that it's in the status quo. So if you're gonna wait for development, doesn't that contradict your definition?
Yeah, because this relates to the motion is to say we should expand now because we're the con team. We are saying that we shouldn't expand now. Why does this have anything to do with what you just said?
Because your first speaker emphasized the fact that, we need to do it right now, like right in the status quo.
Yes, because we're the con, we're saying that we shouldn't do it right now. We are developing this technology.
Your question.
Okay. So are you challenging Darwin's theory by editing a food chain in the ecosystem?
Can you describe what his theory is?
It's like every creature has its own benefits and strengths, and it is the nature.
So we're not exactly taking away the animal from nature, right? We're simply removing the virus from the system. So the animals can still eat it, right? So the food chain will not be disrupted either way. So my question for you is, do you have any statistics or evidence in terms of how side effects will take place?
Yes, we in our evidence, like for example, our immunity system may attack the protein wrap gene that is inserted into your body, and this creates cancer. This creates cancer.
Your question.
Okay, so are you trying to advance your technology through the testments based on human lives because it is not yet ready?
Can you rephrase that?
Like, are you trying to advance your product of gene technology through various treatments that are not ready on human lives?
We tell you that it is ready, right? We have provided examples of you solving many diseases, such as blood disorders, right? We tell you that these are many examples of things that we can solve in the status quo. And even if we can't solve problems such as HIV in the status quo, right? We have already proven to you why we can advance it and research it at the same time.
Alright. We will now enter the summary portion of the debate. This is 2 minutes.
Everyone's ready? Team is ready? Judge ready? Time starts now. Okay, so in this debate, there are two main important clashes, right? And the first one is, how does terrorism actually link to public health services? So we tell you that opening it to public health services means it's granted to the public, therefore more vulnerable for them to get it. And according to NCBI, an active biological or chemical terrorism might range from dissemination of aerosolized anthrax spores to food contamination, right? So there are terrorist incidents in the United States and elsewhere involving like bacterial pathogens and more so. So we are showing you that it is actually, first of all, it is actually possible for terrorists to get it into their hands, and two, that those global norms, like it is illegal and there are punishments. But however, the terrorists won't just stop there. Like it's not that because the protein is basically completely depending on the defensive. Like the people who defend it, but sometimes those global norms cannot be used in order to cannot be powerful enough to constrain them, right? And the second clash about is if gene editing really solves this poverty or this like environmental problem, and we say that we proved how even on a humans like there might be like misuses of this technology, and there can be severe side effects. So we don't see how like there can be also similar things happening when you insert a gene into these mosquitoes, right? So we don't see how it can actually work like 100% and to get away these diseases on these animals. And lastly, I would like to provide the status quo. Yes, we should implement it now. And our goal for the con is basically that we shouldn't implement it now because we believe that it is still in the researching state, right? And it's still not ready for it to access to the public and for millions of people to use it. And as a con team, we strongly oppose. Thank you.
opponents ready? Ready? Time starts now. As a pro team, we have identified a few clashes in the debate. The first one is on side effects. So the con team gives this example of being immune to HIV if like we tweak the CCR5 gene, but you will be like 13 times more likely to die than West Nile virus, right? So they also say that if you have gene editing, there are more like dangerous side effects afterwards. But I believe that anyone and everyone would choose to take the risk to be able to cure a fatal disease with gene editing. Would you not? If you don't do anything about the disease, we believe that you will die no matter what. So why don't you just take that risk? Our side is at least providing a chance for that patient to live, while the con side is not giving them any hope at all. And we understand that there might be more problems after we use gene editing. Yes, this is true, but firstly, this is might. We cannot be. We don't know for sure if this will actually happen, and we aren't. And sure, there's that risk. But if we do not do this, they will die anyway, no matter what. So we believe that people should take this risk. The second one is poverty. So just let me ask you, who helps decrease poverty more? On our side or their side? With gene editing, we can help modify crops to make them produce more fruit. The trials league makes it cheaper, and so people in poverty can buy food easier. But the con team just tells us our plan is not good, but they fail to provide us with a better alternative. And next one is who saves more people? As a pro team with gene editing, we strongly believe that we can save more people than the con team can without it. As we give the examples, the mosquito malaria parasite alone kills 720,000 people per year, and there are 9.6 million cancer deaths per year. People have a 5% chance to survive from cancer without gene editing, and this is not high. If we have the chance to, it's the government's obligation to help their citizens, and so if we can help save these people, it becomes a priority. And the last clash is on future development. So the con team is extracting their fear that gene editing is not stable. So what are they doing to help the current cancer patients right now? Nothing, absolutely nothing. They're so afraid that there might be side effects. They don't know, and just because of this, they are letting the people right now with these uncurable diseases that can only be cured by gene editing. They're just letting them die. While we want to help these people. So because of these reasons, we strongly believe that we should win this debate. Thank you.
We are now entering the grand crossfire. This is 3 minutes, and this involves all participants.
So, in your speech, you talked about multiple examples of diseases that can only be treated by gene editing. So, do you have any evidence or statistics that those and there are people who have those diseases went through trials and it actually worked? And what is the scale of it?
So you're asking for like the statistics of it happening?
So you gave us examples of gene editing can edit the diseases, right? So do you have any example that a person who has that disease actually gone through that and it successfully worked, and the scale of it?
So scientists and researchers already tested these gene editing on they already tested it, and it proved successful for people, but we haven't, since gene editing is still relatively new, it hasn't actually been used so far. So that's why, because we have these successful results, we believe that we should allow it.
Following up, you said it's new. How will you ensure that it will be safe for the citizens to use this technology?
Because we already tested that.
But you just said it's new. You're not sure.
It hasn't been used on real humans, but it has been used on genomes in the lab, right? So it's especially
Genomes in the
thing.
lab are very different from complex human characteristics.
No, yeah, it has been used on human DNA already.
How many people did they test it on?
They tested it on the people's DNA during the lab. That's how we know that it's successful.
So our question is, so you're basically refusing the government's obligation to save their people, right? So are you literally refusing the government to help their people when they have the chance to?
Right. So we're saying that the technology is not fully developed now, right? And when it's fully developed and then being implemented, we can help more people than now, right? Yeah.
So are you just planning on letting these people with these diseases right now just die?
But there's still treatments for there's still treatments for cancer, right?
Yeah.
And according to
As we said, without gene editing, according to Mayo Clinic, there's a 5% chance that people with cancer survive. And as we know, this is not high, and there are 9.6 million people that die from cancer. 1 in every 6 deaths is
So I think you're exaggerating your effects. How can you be sure that these people can all be cured by gene editing?
What do you mean? We know that they can be cured by gene editing. Sure, they
They have the economic power.